My name is Vanessa Carter, and last month my entire family walked into a house they didn't know I owned. The invitation didn't come to me, of course. I found it by accident, buried in a group email forwarded by someone who forgot to delete the trail. Subject line: Carter Family Reunion 2024. Venue: Willowbrook Mansion. I nearly laughed. Willowbrook was tradition, the stage for every Carter celebration. Eleanor's patent party, Ethan's engagement, Susan's 60th. It was also mine now, quietly, legally, irrevocably. They had no idea. So I let them plan their little reunion. I let them sip champagne under my chandeliers, pose for group photos in front of walls they once told me I didn't belong near. I didn't greet them. I just opened the door. And when the lights dimmed and the screens lit up with every moment they chose to forget, I let the silence speak. Because this wasn't revenge. This was the record. And for once, I was the one holding the pen. Before I show you what happened when they saw me, really saw me, I want to know, have you ever been erased from your own family's story? Tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. And hit like plus subscribe if you're ready for more stories about betrayal, reclaiming your voice, and building your own damn table. The glow from my laptop burned a sharp blue against the dim of my Brooklyn loft. Dust floated lazily in the shafts of moonlight, cutting across the unfinished sculptures that crowded every surface. My fingers hovered over the trackpad. My breath caught when I clicked the message open. From Ethan Carter. Subject: Carter Family Reunion, 2024, to Family Group Thread Family. I choked on the word, even as my eyes scanned the meticulously organized guest list. There was Aunt Lorraine and her twin Pomeranians, Cousin Mikey, who'd been in and out of rehab but somehow still made the cut, and Eleanor, of course. Always Eleanor, the golden child with the golden curls and the golden career in biotech PR. But not me, not Vanessa. Not even an empty space where my name should have been. I didn't move, just stared. You want to disappear so badly, Vanessa? Don't expect us to look for you. My mother's words had stuck to the inside of my skull since 2016. That night had been the beginning of my real vanishing act. Or rather, theirs. They'd made it look like I was the one who walked away. But really, they had shut the door, turned the lock, and thrown away the key. I just stopped knocking. Behind me, the radiator hissed and Jasmine shuffled out of her room in her usual oversized hoodie, a spoon in one hand and a tub of almond butter in the other. You still up? She asked, catching a glimpse of my screen. Oh, that face. Let me guess. Mom Carter forgot you existed again? I didn't answer. I clicked into my proof folder. Screenshots layered by year. 2016. Eleanor's engagement party. No invite. 2017. Christmas dinner. Family only. 2019. A blurry pic of a backyard picnic. Ethan smiling with a beer. My absence like a shadow over every image. 2021. Eleanor's baby shower. Didn't know you still had the same number. Susan had texted 4 days after the event. Jesus, V, Jasmine muttered. You should have burned them and gone to the spa like a normal person. I let out a slow, humorless breath. Can't burn what I might need in court. Okay, psycho. I minimized the folder and opened another file. This one marked HAVEN0231-confirm, a contract. The header was from Haven Arts Fund, the nonprofit I'd founded 5 years ago using a mix of prize money, guilt-fueled donations from old professors, and my own relentless work. The final line of the contract gleamed like a secret in the dark. Transfer of ownership. Willowbrook Mansion. Recipient. Vanessa Carter. The irony wasn't lost on me. I clicked open the venue map embedded in Ethan's email. Willowbrook. Of course. Why would they choose anywhere else? Willowbrook was where the Carters held every major family event. Anniversaries, graduations, the time Eleanor got her first patent approved. It was tradition. Now it was mine. Perfect, I whispered. Jasmine leaned over my shoulder. Wait, they planned their reunion in your house? I let them. She blinked. You're joking. I clicked back to my inbox and opened a new draft. This one addressed to no one. It wasn't to be sent, just to be stored. A quiet note among the evidence. I hit forward on Ethan's email, then added a line above the thread. They planned a reunion in my house. I'll let them walk in. Then I glanced toward the workbench by the window. An old charcoal sketch sat beneath a cracked frame. A child's drawing of a woman holding a tree in her arms. Chloe had sent it to me when she was 11. I hadn't spoken to her in years. I didn't even know if she remembered, but she had drawn me with roots. On the other side of the room, the beginnings of my newest sculpture rose from the floor. It was a broken banquet table, jagged, asymmetrical, powerful in its instability. No chairs, no place settings, just the suggestion of a feast that had never been shared, the kind of inheritance no one would dare fight over. My hand hovered over the trackpad one last time. I highlighted the phrase I'd just typed. They planned a reunion in my house. I'll let them walk in. And I saved it. Funny how people forget who they cast out until they walk through a door they don't own. The early May breeze swept through the open double doors of Willowbrook Mansion, stirring the dust motes like memories. I stood in the center of the main lobby, where sunbeams filtered through stained glass windows and cast fractured color across the hardwood floor. It had been years since I'd walked these halls. Years since my mother told me that family was earned, and that I hadn't earned mine. Now, I held the keys. The sculpture stood exactly where I wanted it, dead center under the chandelier. Inheritance? Raw. Stark. A banquet table cracked clean down the middle, its legs split outward like something had torn through it from the inside. There were no chairs, only jagged edges. I'd rigged the lighting with Dylan to cast a ruddy hue over the base, so when the sun dipped low, the shadows would pool like blood. Are you sure you'll let them in? Jasmine's voice broke through the silence. She stepped back to admire the effect, arms crossed, tight ponytail twitching like a question mark. I'm not greeting them, I said, just opening the door. Same thing in their mind. Then let them be wrong again. The gallery space hummed with transformation. Dylan, ever the perfectionist, crouched under the projector mount in the main dining room, threading new wiring behind the antique molding. He gave a mock salute when he spotted me, dust smudging his cheek like a second dimple. Almost done. The slideshow's on a secure loop. Once it starts, no one pauses or skips without your password. Good. I walked past the display monitors lining the side hall, each assigned a segment of my absence. Screens would show photos they never saw, projects they ignored, press clippings they never read. One screen would loop just a phrase. Ask her where she was in 2019. Jasmine scrolled through her phone behind me. You've got a comment on the gallery teaser, she muttered. From someone named Chloe C. I froze. She turned the screen. There it was. Chloe C. Whoever made this, thank you. I feel seen. I couldn't stop the small breath that escaped my throat. Chloe, my cousin. She was barely 16 now. When I left, she was a wide-eyed girl with braces and a sketchbook. She followed the account? I asked. Yeah, VC Archive. You're anonymous enough. Jasmine smirked, and apparently meaningful. The ping of a new email distracted us. Jasmine opened it on the shared laptop. From Ethan Carter to Carter Family Thread. Subject reunion confirmed. Great news. Willowbrook confirmed. One of my old clients is letting us use the space for the weekend. May 26th to 28th. Can't believe our luck. The mansion's been remodeled. I nearly laughed. Old client, I repeated. You should wear a name tag that says that. I turned toward the central display. Inheritance glowed with the dying sun, casting deep red around its foundation. Like memory made visible, like history that refused to be rewritten. Behind me, Dylan tapped the projector remote and the slideshow flickered to life. The first image, a blurry photo of Willowbrook's dining room, circa 2016. 11 people around the table. My seat, conspicuously empty. "You sure you're ready?" Jasmine asked again, quieter this time. "I was born ready," I said, then paused. Number I became ready the night she tore up my scholarship. The image changed. Thanksgiving 2016. Susan Carter in a cranberry sweater, holding a document in one hand and a torn half in the other. Jasmine let out a slow breath. "Damn. That's just slide one," I said. Later that night, a message arrived in the VC archive inbox from Chloe Carter. Subject: internship? "Hi, I don't know who runs this space, but it moved me. I've never felt like I belonged anywhere. But this feels different. Is there a chance I could intern here someday? I want to learn." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I closed the laptop and let the projector hum behind me, painting blood across my floor. They walked into my home with their pastel lies and practiced smiles. I didn't stop them. The doors to Willowbrook swung open at exactly 10 a.m. The morning light filtered down through the glass dome, draping the marble floor in soft gold. The buffet table gleamed under the spotlight. Champagne glasses aligned with surgical precision. Delicate pastries arranged like miniature sculptures. Art hung from every wall, each piece whispering a quiet ache. A theme wove through them all. Absence, empty chairs, fading faces, rooms without doors. And then came the Carter family. Susan stepped in first, heels clicking confidently against stone. Her ivory-sheathed dress was pristine, not a thread out of place. She walked like this was still her legacy. Chin lifted, smile barely restrained, eyes already scanning for judgment. Behind her, Ethan guided a small crowd, arms outstretched like a host at a wedding he didn't plan. "Can you believe this place?" he gushed, eyes flicking around the grand lobby. They really outdid themselves. "They?" I whispered under my breath. I watched them from the upper landing, hidden in shadow. Jasmine stood discreetly behind the reception table, her name tag reading only J. Lee, event director. Aunt Joanne wandered past the dining hall archway and stopped. Her eyes narrowed at a canvas, sepia-toned hands reaching toward one another, never touching. She leaned closer. "Isn't this?" she murmured. Chloe's voice rang out before she could finish. "Wait!" The teenager darted across the lobby, past the curved stairwell. She stood in front of the east wall, where a single framed sketch hung. A young girl's pencil drawing of 2 sparrows in a cracked cage. One door open, the other bird missing. "This was mine," she breathed. "I mailed it. To someone. Years ago, I thought it got lost." Jasmine, sipping casually from a water glass, looked up from her clipboard. "Looks like the house chose what to remember." Susan turned toward the sculpture under the chandelier. She went pale. Inheritance. Her fingers tightened around the clutch in her hand. The split banquet table, the absent chairs, the raw edges. She said nothing, but her eyes were locked on it like it might bite. Ethan glanced at her. "What is that thing?" Susan didn't answer, and then silence shifted. Footsteps, a shadow overhead. They looked up. I stepped onto the second-floor balcony, the hem of my black dress brushing against the railing. I stood directly above Inheritance, letting their gazes crawl up from the wounds they'd ignored to the face they'd chosen to forget. For a moment, no one moved. Then I spoke. "Welcome to Willowbrook," I said, voice calm even. "I see you found the RSVP. Eventually." Below me, Ethan's mouth opened. Closed. Joanne took a slow step back. And Susan. Her hand trembled. Jasmine didn't look up. Instead, she turned to refill the champagne. Susan leaned toward her, whispering sharply, "Who approved this venue again?" Jasmine arched one perfect brow. "Ask the owner." Somewhere in the corner of the gallery, a tiny green light blinked to life, just above the antique bookshelf. The hidden livestream camera was now rolling, capturing every frozen face and silent gasp. Across the lobby, Chloe stood absolutely still, eyes wide as they flicked between the sculpture, the painting, and me. She didn't say a word, but I could see the question blooming behind her eyes. Are you the one I've been following? They brought wine and apologies wrapped in velvet. I brought files. The gallery lights dimmed just slightly, letting the crimson glow on inheritance deepen into something almost reverent, like a wound that refused to scab. Champagne glasses clinked softly from the corner. Laughter flickered once. Thin, nervous, then silence. I stepped forward and faced them all. Susan hovered near the central column, a flute of sparkling rosé gripped like a weapon. Ethan stood with his hand half raised, unsure whether to speak or retreat. Joanne looked everywhere but at me. Chloe remained at the far end of the room, still as breath, her eyes locked on me like she was solving an equation she already knew the answer to. No one asked why the screens lowered. They just watched as the lights above dimmed further, and a single projector came to life. The first title flickered onto the screen, Uninvited, 2016 to 2023. A pause. Then images began to scroll. Weddings, holidays, dinners, birthdays. Susan's 60th, Ethan's engagement party, Joanne's lake house retreat. All lined with smiling faces. I was in none of them. Each image had a caption in stark Helvetica font. Guest list. 34, Vanessa Carter. 0, another image. A group shot with the caption, Family Forever, beneath it. I'd seen it once on Susan's Facebook, posted 5 minutes before she blocked me. Someone whispered. Jasmine stood near the soundboard, tablet in hand, expression unreadable. Next slide. Title, Lineage Revoked. A still from Thanksgiving 2016. Susan at the head of the table. A blur of hands, torn paper midair. The audio clicked on. Let's keep it intimate. Vanessa doesn't represent this family. My throat tightened, but I kept my spine straight. Joanne gasped. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Susan went pale. You edited that, she said, voice sharp and rising. No, Jasmine replied flatly. That's from your voicemail archive. 2016, time-stamped. The next slide showed a birthday cake, Eleanor's third child, surrounded by relatives. At the edge of the frame, a familiar shadow. Me, out of focus, forgotten. Chloe's voice, quiet, cut through the tension. You really kept everything. I didn't keep it, I said. You all did. I just organized it. I stepped to the center of the room, reached into my coat pocket, and pulled out my tablet. One tap. Screen brightened. The contract appeared. I rotated the screen so they could see it projected overhead. Haven Arts Fund. Transfer of ownership agreement recipient. Vanessa Carter. Position Executive Director. Property Willowbrook Mansion, Vermont. Ethan's mouth dropped. Joanne stared like she was seeing the ghost of a building. Susan looked directly at me. You bought it? No, I said. I built the foundation that bought it. Joanne stepped forward, voice brittle. We thought you needed space. After what happened, I turned to her. You didn't give me space. You gave me exile. For a beat, no one moved. Then Susan found her footing. We had no idea you were behind this, that you owned... You didn't need to know. I cut in. You never asked. Behind me, Jasmine clicked to the final slide. White text on a black background. Grayscale silence. Beneath it, a timeline of unanswered messages. The last one sent from me in 2020. Hope you're well. No reply. I looked straight at Susan now. At the woman who raised me with polite disdain and mastered the art of omission. This isn't a stage, I said. A pause. It's a record. I held her gaze, and every silence has been time-stamped. They thought this was revenge, but this was release. Morning filtered softly through the arched windows of Willowbrook, laying gold across the polished floors and unfinished canvases. A breeze stirred the linen curtains in the gallery hall, fluttering them like quiet applause. The air smelled of cedar and possibility. It had been a week since they'd left. Not with slammed doors or shouted accusations, just silence, weighted and overdue. No messages, no follow-ups. Just a vacuum where their judgment used to be. And I hadn't once stepped into that vacuum. I moved through the halls, slow and deliberate. Room by room. Presence. Voice. Quiet. Each door now bore a name etched in small copper plates. I paused at the final one. Inheritance. Not a painting this time. A space, clean, light-filled, with 2 easels already set up for the incoming residents. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Chloe. She pinned a drawing to the studio bulletin board, her hand slightly shaking with the thumbtack, then steady as she stepped back. The sketch was warm and messy. A table with mismatched chairs, coffee cups, open journals, tangled wires. A cat. A half-eaten apple. People laughing. She wrote under it in small print. This is what family looks like now. I smiled but didn't speak. Some moments don't need to be named. Back in the office, my laptop pinged. The subject line was too familiar to ignore. Subject: RE Family Reunion Fallout. Public Statement Request. Sender: Vermont Independent. I opened it. Scanned. We heard your family didn't invite you. You hosted the event anyway. Would you like to comment on reclaiming the space? Was this revenge? A reckoning? I didn't answer. I deleted the email. Let them guess. Let them write their own ending. In the front courtyard, Dylan was adjusting the new sign above the gate. The letters gleamed, recently lacquered, refusing to hide. The Carter Initiative. For those who were left out, students began to arrive slowly. One carried an old guitar case, another a box of brushes and spices. No last names offered. No history demanded. Jasmine waved from the porch, clipboard in hand, already teasing one of the newcomers about their outfit. Chloe was showing another around, her voice bright, confident. I stood for a while at the edge of it all, then walked to the balcony. The same one where, years ago, Susan had stood in an ivory dress and declared, "This house is not your stage." She wasn't wrong, because now it was no longer a stage. It was a platform, a sanctuary, a beginning. I leaned on the rail, watching the new arrivals fill the gravel path. I breathed. I didn't reclaim my seat at their table. I built one that never asks who deserves to sit. And as the sun climbed, casting Willowbrook in light, I stepped down the front steps, through the main doors this time. No side exits, no shadows. Some families are born, others are built. I built mine in steel. They said I disappeared, that I turned my back on the family, that I walked away from the values we were raised with. But none of that was true. The truth is simpler and crueler. I was erased, one gathering at a time, one group photo, one family email chain, one birthday party where my name was accidentally left out. And when I noticed, when I finally asked why, I was told it was my fault. That I'd always been distant, too quiet, too complicated. They said I didn't want to belong. What I wanted was a seat at the table that didn't come with conditions. I wanted to exist in the family without having to erase parts of myself. But in the Carter family, silence was mistaken for grace, and absence was easier than accountability. So I stopped asking. When they walked into Willowbrook, all smiles and pastels, I watched from behind the glass. I watched them admire the paintings, sip the wine, pose for selfies beneath the chandeliers I'd had restored. They had no idea the walls around them had been built with every bruise their absence left behind. Every frame was a timestamp. Every silence had a name. And when the moment came, when the screen dropped and their words played back in their own voices, I didn't look away. I didn't soften. I didn't ask for understanding. I let the silence speak. There was no yelling, no confrontation, just their faces tightening, Susan's lips parting, but no words coming out. Ethan fidgeting with his sleeve like a child called to the front of the class. Joanne pretending she didn't understand what she saw. I didn't do it for their reaction. I did it so I could finally look at myself and know I wasn't crazy. I wasn't too sensitive. I wasn't the one who left. They pushed. I landed. And when I stood up again, I built something new. The Carter Initiative isn't a revenge project. It's a blueprint for how to live without apology. It's what happens when you stop begging for scraps from a table you helped build. It's the space I needed back then. So I made it real. For others like me. I didn't send out invitations to the launch. I didn't call reporters. I didn't even write a blog post about it. I just opened the gates. And the people came. Artists, writers, teachers, kids who never got to hear "you matter" without an asterisk. People who were told they didn't belong. They filled the halls not with noise, but with meaning. Chloe posted the first sketch in the bulletin room. No fanfare, just a drawing of a long, uneven table and the caption, "This is what family looks like now." That moment, that was it. Not a victory march, not a mic drop, just a quiet declaration that the story had changed, and this time I was the one holding the pen. They thought this was revenge, but this was release. And I didn't just walk out the front door. I walked forward. She never asked for pity. She only asked to be seen, and when that failed, she built a place where no one had to beg for belonging. Her silence was once used against her, but in the end, it became the most powerful testimony. When injustice is repeated enough, it becomes tradition, until someone brave enough decides to rewrite the rules. And sometimes the most radical act of justice is walking away and building something better. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If you're still here, it means something in Vanessa's journey resonated with you. And for that, I'm deeply grateful. Maybe you've stood outside a door that should have been open to you. Maybe you've scanned a family photo for your own face and found only silence. Or maybe, like Vanessa, you were told you were too distant, too difficult, too much, when all you wanted was to be seen without shrinking. We share these stories not just for closure, but for connection. Because somewhere out there, someone else is sitting in a quiet apartment, staring at an email that wasn't meant for them. Someone else is organizing years of erasure into folders named proof, wondering if they imagined it all. And maybe, just maybe, they need to know they're not alone. Vanessa didn't build the Carter Initiative out of revenge. She built it out of longing, out of clarity, out of the quiet kind of strength that grows when you finally stop asking to be included and start creating your own space. Not every wound needs to be reopened, but some need to be honored. Not every story needs confrontation, but every truth deserves a witness. And sometimes the most powerful kind of justice is the one that comes without applause. So if this story stirred something in you, if you've ever been the forgotten one, the left out one, the one who walked away and was blamed for not returning, know this: you're not the absence. You are the architect. And you get to decide what gets built next. We're honored that you chose to spend your time with us today. This channel was created to give voice to the ones who were written out. To the quiet daughters, the discarded sons, the black sheep who learned to grow wool into armor. If you felt seen here, drop a comment below. Let us know where you're watching from, or share a piece of your own story. Every comment helps remind someone else that their silence has power too. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next story of justice, transformation, and truth spoken without a tremble. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing her. We'll see you in the next chapter. My name is Sloan Walker, and the night I lost my house started with warm bread and cinnamon candles. I folded every napkin like it mattered. Because it did. My first dinner in the home I bought, the home I worked for, saved for, built from nothing. I wanted them to see me. Not as the daughter who made too much noise or not enough, but as a woman who had finally arrived. I used Grandma's silverware. I baked her rosemary bread from scratch. I lit the candles 5 minutes before they came, hoping scent might succeed where words had always failed. They were 20 minutes late. Vanessa walked in first, still wearing sunglasses. Janice kissed my cheek like I was someone else's daughter. Ronald didn't speak. He just tapped the doorframe and said, "Good bones." They sat down at my table, ate nothing, said less, complimented nothing but the rate on my mortgage. And when dessert cooled, untouched, unpraised, they handed me a suitcase. My suitcase. It was packed. They told me to leave the keys. They said, "This place isn't really yours anymore." But I took the keys, and I walked out. Before I take you into what came next, the late-night call from the bank, the footage they didn't know I had, and the courtroom silence that said more than any apology ever could. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been erased from your own story and had to write yourself back in? Don't forget to subscribe. Because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's what happens when the